I want to first tell you a little bit more about American Promise. I have been in this work since filing a brief in the Supreme Court case of Citizens United, and have worked with many people and organizations that are doing wonderful work to try to respond to that catastrophic mistake by the Supreme Court with this constitutional amendment. But we started American Promise in 2016, at the beginning of the year, January 2016, because we needed to be more unified, to be more strategic, to have a much sort of wider way of engaging Americans everywhere, cross-partisan, lots of different strategies being welcome to be debated and discussed as we move forward. And I have brought up a slide of Doris Kearns Goodwin, the great historian and writer. She's on our advisory council at American Promise, and she has seen the situation that America is in now in that historical context. And if you think about Doris Kearns Goodwin's great works, it's about Lincoln, if you saw the movie about the winning of the 13th Amendment or read the book, A Team of Rivals. She looks at Theodore Roosevelt, if you read her great book on President Teddy Roosevelt in that era. Lyndon Baines Johnson, she worked for President Johnson and wrote about his times. And each of those times were tumultuous. American democracy really opened to question. The post-Civil War, of course, where it was all on the line. We did 4 constitutional amendments in the Johnson years, between 1960 and 1971. We did 4 constitutional amendments in the Teddy Roosevelt days, the progressive era, between 1910 and 1920. We did the great post-Civil War amendments to renew American freedom and liberty for all, with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to end slavery and guarantee equal rights for all. So my point is, we are in one of those periods now, and we have that historical perspective from Doris Kearns Goodwin, but I think we all feel it, that something has really gone wrong with American democracy, and we are in danger if we don't do that really hard work of constitutional foundation setting to renew again the American promise of liberty and equality and effective self-government. So don't despair when it seems really bad, because if you looked at when Americans rallied together to do and it is hard, you need 2/3 of Congress, we need to ratify it in 38 states, amendments are hard, but we've always done it in times like this, where everything's on the line and it seems to be failing, and Americans rally together to get it done. So that's what we're doing with this amendment. We're glad to have Doris Kearns Goodwin on the team, and I have brought up a slide of some other of our members of our advisory council to emphasize something about American Promise. These are Republicans, these are Democrats, these are independents. There's Senator Alan Simpson, former senator, Republican from Wyoming, beside Mike Dukakis, former Democratic governor of Massachusetts and presidential candidate. There's faith leaders, there's business leaders like Judy Wicks and Ben Cohen and Matt Patsky, the CEO of Trillium Asset Management. There's Justice Jim Nelson up there, a Supreme Court justice in Montana who left the court after the Supreme Court of the United States struck down Montana's laws that it had for a century to keep corporate money out of state elections in Montana. He left the court and joined our board to get this amendment done, to reverse that decision. We have veterans. So the idea of American Promise is, let's bring all Americans together. We don't have to agree on policies. We don't have to agree on parties. We don't have to agree on lots of things. But we'll stand together and agree on this to fix our democracy and win this constitutional amendment. So we do the hard work of cross-partisan civil collaboration and deliberation. That's our National Citizen Leadership Conference. Some photos there. We gave an award to Republican and a conservative congressman from North Carolina, Walter Jones. He is a big champion of this constitutional amendment. We had 4 members of Congress, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. That's Congresswoman Donna Edwards leaving the stage to, in another photo in the slide, Congresswoman Edwards was the first member of Congress to introduce a constitutional amendment in Congress after the Citizens United decision. We're a part of the Bridge Alliance. It's a network of organizations that commit to this kind of rebuilding of American democracy in a cross-partisan, post-partisan way, really, in a lot of ways. It's not going to be the same sort of two-party kind of loggerheads when we reform the country. It'll be a new arrangement that serves the American people if we do our work well as citizens. But in the end, it's not about the famous people or the members of Congress. It's about us. It's about the American people and citizens, and whether we can step up to this moment and do everything we can to win this 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So American Promise exists to serve you, to serve the people, to help us as citizens do well, to move this forward, and do it locally in our communities. It's not about, asking you to support American Promise so we go get the job done. We want to know how we can support you so you can get the job done right here in Minnesota